Hello, Diverse Medicine. My name is Dr. Garcia. I am a pediatric cardiologist, and I'd like to take this time to share my journey with you. I hope that this information can inspire you to be more than you thought that you could be, because I definitely think me being a doctor is exactly what happened. So my journey started at a very young age. So I was 16 years old when I became pregnant. Prior to that, I lived a very sheltered life and a very easy life, I would say. I was involved in all kind of extracurricular activities, and I did well in school. So this was kind of a shock to myself and to my family. And so initially when I became pregnant, we were married within a few weeks. So I was married at 16. And this happened in the summer of my going into junior year, and I decided that I would not go back to high school. That summer, I thought it just wasn't a place for me to be because I was having a baby, and I thought I'll just get my GED and then I'll go to college. But the day before school started, my best friend called me and she was like, "You're really not going back to school?" And I said, "No, I'm really not going back to school. I'm too ashamed to go." And she was like, "Just come and we'll walk with you and we'll be with you and we'll make sure that no one makes fun of you or says anything that makes you feel uncomfortable." And so I asked my husband, and he said that he supported me in whatever I wanted to do. And so I decided to go back to school. So that next day I went to school. My friends met me in the front. We walked in together. People definitely looked at me, but no one said anything to me. And so that's where that kind of got started. So I got back into school. I was supposed to be a junior, but my counselor, who had known me all along, and we're really close because it's a very small school, a graduating class of about 30 people, she talked to me. And she looked at all my classes. I had already started taking some college classes in high school. And so she looked at everything, and she had realized that I would just be missing one course to be able to graduate. So I was able to take that extra course, and I was able to graduate that year from high school. So I graduated at the age of 17. My son was born in March. I graduated in May, and then I started college in August. During that experience of being pregnant, being a teenager who was pregnant, I always felt very judged and insecure about it. Like when I went to the doctor's office, I thought everyone was looking at me thinking like, there's that young girl and what's she doing? And the only time I ever felt that I wasn't judged and I felt very secure was with my OB-GYN, and he was just a great doctor. And through all that, I always thought, one day I want to be someone like him, someone who could help people in time of need and make them feel comfortable and make them feel like they're just like everyone else and give them great care. But I still didn't believe that I could be a doctor because I just thought, I'm from a small town, I had a baby, it's going to be really hard for me to be a doctor. I knew I'd go to college, and I thought I would do some other kind of job and get my degree. So I started with my degree in biology. For me to start college, my husband actually had to stop going to college, and he got a job. His thought all along was that, he didn't want anyone to ever think that because of him or because of my son that I wouldn't become the person that everyone thought I would be, even though we didn't know what that was. We just always knew when I was young that I would go to college and that I would be some form of a professional. And so he stopped going to college, and he was working 2 jobs. I worked 3 jobs in college. I worked in the student medical center. I worked as a lab TA, and I worked in an office, juvenile probation office, as a clerical assistant. So I worked throughout college. It wasn't easy having a baby, but I made it do. I just put all my time into schooling and work and him, and I never, spend time to go to do parties or to go travel. If we ever asked our family to babysit him beyond the time that he was at daycare, that was only for me to study or to do stuff that was going to be beneficial for him. So pretty much, I say that his life inspired me to be more than I ever knew I was. And that was the most important thing for me, was that he live a great life, and that it would never be because he had a teenage mother that he didn't have everything that everyone else had. And so I, gave my all into college, and probably in that first year of college, there was a summer program where if you were interested in doing medicine or doing some kind of like pharmacist or optometrist, you would go into that program. And so I decided to go to that program, and it was actually affiliated with UTMB. So I went there, and within the first week, my son, I had to leave my son, and it was about 2 hours away from home. So he was staying with my husband, and our families lived in the same town. They were helping with him. But within that first week and a half, he got put in the hospital for, now that I'm a pediatrician, I know it was probably some kind of viral illness that gave him a little bit of bronchiolitis. But to a 17-year-old mother, it seemed like something was really wrong with him. And so I quit the program knowing that I probably just did something that's never going to let me go back into med school, but I knew that it was something that I needed to do, was to be with my son. And so I did quit that program, but I kept working really hard, working and studying and getting good grades. I used to go to McDonald's and let him play in the play area, and I would sit there and study, or I would take him to the park and sit at the park and study. I did anything that I could to study and still let him have a good time. And so then I was lucky enough to get into another program during my third year of medical school, and that was again through UTMB, but this time it was at the main campus in Galveston. And so I went up there and I did this program, and I met wonderful people who were very helpful and really wanted me to succeed. Prior to the program, I had taken the MCAT, and I had a really, really high GPA. I did research. I did volunteer work. I did everything that I knew I needed to do to get into med school, but my MCAT score just wasn't as high as everything else was. And so I knew that the MCAT score might be something that was holding me back. So I took full advantage of that program. I met everyone that I could. I found out who were the people that were in charge of deciding who interviewed, who were the people who decided who got into medical school. I met everybody that I could, and I talked to them, and I said, what do I need to do to assure myself that I get into med school? And they said, everything looks great. It's just your MCAT score isn't as high as we would like it to be. So I took a Kaplan course. And there was a Kaplan course that was being offered an hour from where I lived, and it was available at a lower price for minority individuals or people with lower income. And I did get into that course, and after that I retook the MCAT and I got a higher score. And so I was very pleased with that, and I was very grateful to, programs that were helping minorities. And I think that's one thing, is that you always have to know that there's people out there who want you to succeed. Sometimes your family might not be the one who is encouraging you or thinking that you can do it. Sometimes they are, and hopefully you have that, but it's not always going to be like that. But there are people out there who dedicate their lives to helping minorities get to the place that we want to be. And so look for all those programs, look to see what's going on, contact the different universities, look on the websites, just try to find something that will help you get to the point that you need to be, to show them that you were really serious about becoming a doctor. And so I think with that, the funniest thing, when I interviewed for med school, I was sitting down talking to one of the interviewers actually at UTMB, and she said, I was looking at your research, and it says that you did research on the Western Gulf crab. And she's like, why did you decide to do that research? And I pretty much told her, I said, I'm not into doing that kind of research. I would rather do medical type research or human-based research, but I go to a very small university in South Texas, and the only research they have in my department is Western Gulf crabs. And I want to get to med school, and I know you want me to do research, so I took crabs out of the ocean for a summer, and I counted them, and I did histology on crab lungs, and that's what I knew I needed to do. And I think that even though it wasn't like other people who were coming from huge universities that were doing research on bacteria or research with genome projects and all this other fancy projects, I think it actually hit her more that this was what was available to me, and I did it. And even though it wasn't the sexiest research, as people say, it was the research that I had and what I could do to make sure that I got into medical school. And so then it comes to, interviewing. When I interviewed back then, it was still when we were on that match system where you only match to one program, and I matched into UTMB, and I was really, really happy that I got into UTMB. We moved there the summer before starting medical school. They had a program called the pre-matriculation program, which was again for medical students who maybe they thought wasn't the I don't know the word to use, kind of the same type of thing that you would expect someone with a very high GPA who has a high MCAT score, who doesn't have any kids, who, you know, whose mom and dad were all doctors, you know, that kind of, I wasn't fitting that mold. And so they had this program for people to come in the summer, get familiar with what kind of medical school coursework was, meet some people, make some friends, and get used to it. So I did that program, and that was very, very hard, because my son and my husband had to stay back. In the meantime, while I was, right when I was finishing college at the end, my husband was able to go back to college. So he still had to finish college, and he still had about 6 months left when I started the pre-matriculation program. So he and my parents and my son had to drop me off at medical school, and that was very, very hard to be without them. But we both knew that it was something temporary and something that we had to do to get to where we needed to be. And again, my husband was so supportive, and he always put in first was that we're going to get you where you want to be, and you're going to fulfill your dreams. And so they left me, and I stayed there, and I met so many people.
Thank you for watching our videos. We have 2 things that we want you to do. Number 1, please leave a comment below or question so that we can try to make videos to address them, or email us at info@diversemedicine.org. Number 2, please subscribe to our channel, and that way we can get the videos out to as many people as possible. Thanks for watching.